Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'm delighted to be here, although I'm not sure why. So I've decided to frame it that for me this is a learning opportunity that Esther and Bernie and Leo having spent some time with me, understand that I really need to learn more about this. So they figured the way I could learn more about it was to put me in a place where I couldn't leave, and I'm here. I've really been impressed with the way AFT, from Randy on down and all around, has responded to this challenge. I had an opportunity to sit in with a focus group in New York and hear the early teachers, early childhood teachers, talk with the early grade teachers. And that was a fascinating interchange as they try to understand and work through and help each other with this challenge of early suspensions. I come to this issue because I'm managing director of the campaign for grade level reading. And we were organized to respond to the reality that 80% of low income kids are not reading on grade level by the end of third grade. And in this room, I don't need to tell anybody that's really bad news. As we did the listening tour, it occurred to us pretty clearly that there are a long line of people telling teachers and school leaders what to do, and the thought occurred to us that we didn't really want to get into that line. We tried to figure out how we could help schools succeed, and we thought and found out that we could help schools succeed by getting more kids ready for school, getting more kids to show up to school every day, and taking care of kids over the summer so they don't come back in September farther behind than when they left in June. And that has been the focal point of the campaign. Along the way, what we've learned is an inconvenient truth that's morphing into heresy. And that is that there are a significant and growing number of children who are falling beyond the reach of schools. And those children are poor and disproportionately minority. Now, saying that kids are falling beyond the reach of school is disconcerting to those of us who have spent a long career in schools, with schools, promoting education reform and school improvement. It really calls into question how well we've done what we hope to do. But it's heresy because so much of the American mythology is that school-based education is the pathway out of poverty. It is the access road to opportunity. It is sort of the guarantor that where you start in life does not predict where you will go in life and where you will end up. And what we're finding is for a large number of kids, that is a myth because they're outside the reach of schools. And in many cases, those are the kids who not only start out behind, but they fall farther behind because they missed so much school, and then they lose even more ground over the summer. And that combination of starting behind, falling farther behind, and losing more ground is a lethal combination to a large and growing number of kids. So what we don't want to do is to complicate that problem by having kids suspended from school. Mm-hmm. And as we have looked at this issue, what we found is there's blame enough to go around, but what we're learning is that it's a terribly complicated situation, and we all need to stop finger pointed and figure out how we deal with it. What we're learning comes a bit from James Comer. And James Comer, for half a century, has been urging more attention during the teacher training and pre-service preparation of teachers, that we need more about child development. And we need not just the theory of child development, we need practicums, and we've got to essentially have real engagement at the level of child development. He's been talking about that to little avail in some cases and no avail in others. We need more serious professional development for teachers. And I start there, but that's not where I end, because by starting with the pre-service requirement and going to professional development, we could easily reinforce the notion that this is a teacher problem, or just a teacher problem. It is not. We need to figure out how we respond and create strong, trusting relationships between teachers and parents. Mm-hmm. And in many cases, those relationships do not obtain. We need to figure out how teachers could access what parents know about their children. And for those of you who've been paying attention to the teacher home visiting programs, I think we're all seeing the promise of that relationship playing out, where a teacher is asking a parent, what triggers your kid? And how do you know your kid is about to get out of control? And how do you intervene? And where parent practices are beginning to inform classroom practices and vice versa. We need to understand and help parents understand that if you communicate by action and communicate by behavior, that essentially sets a standard for the kid. And every morning when I'm standing by the train and I watch a parent grab a kid to move him or her away from the yellow line, you want to say, it might be better if you just explain to the kid why they move. But this notion that we all see it and we all cringe, the snatch and grab, and that parent has no idea that she or he may be communicating to the kid that's okay, rather than explaining that you want to get by, to push your way by. And some of that is happening in school. But quite frankly, I've been most impressed by the work that Kuma Yates and his colleagues are doing down at the Rollins Center in the Atlanta Speech School. And what they have recognized, they've taken the Hart and Risley report and looked at this issue, the 30 million word gap. And what they've recognized is that for kids who have the language delays, they continue to communicate with behavior. And the pointing and touching and pulling and pushing that is really cute when you're 3 is really annoying when you're 6, 7, or 8. Mm-hmm. And when the teacher says, don't do that, the kid has no idea what he or she did. And so it's quite possible that by the end of the day, the end of the week, the end of the month, the kid is seen as a chronic offender, while the kid is simply trying to communicate that he or she wants to get by. So what they have done is they've developed some techniques for helping teachers to interpret a behavior not as misbehavior, but as an attempt to communicate by behavior, and they try within the moment to help that kid unlearn those behaviors. I find that work incredibly interesting and incredibly promising. And I think there's a great conversation to be had among the researchers and the practitioners and parents and community members about how we all get involved, try to understand the problem, and really not end up in what could be another ugly blaming situation. And I've got to say, and this is the reason why I came today, that I have been totally impressed that this union has chosen not to essentially go into the fetal position or the karate stance over the issue, but really to take it head on, to understand the seriousness of it, and to encourage us all to get into a dialogue, a problem-solving dialogue about it. And I'm delighted to have an opportunity to be here today and to really learn a lot from the colleagues on the panel.
Okay, thank you. Terrific.